Hello guys, welcome to my channel. Just in, Ju Yi collapses on set, Chen Lei in tears as crew rushes to save her. The entertainment industry was thrown into chaos today after beloved actress Ju Yi collapsed on the set of her latest drama, leaving both cast and crew shaken to the core. What was supposed to be another long day of filming turned into a nightmare that fans are still struggling to process. The scene unfolded in a matter of seconds, but its impact has rippled far beyond the studio walls, sparking an outpouring of shock, fear, and sympathy from across the globe. According to multiple eyewitnesses, the collapse happened in the late afternoon during the filming of a particularly emotional sequence. Ju Yi had already completed several takes of a demanding scene when she suddenly began to look visibly fatigued. Crew members noticed her swaying slightly as she delivered her lines, her complexion paling under the studio lights. At first, many assumed it was just a momentary lapse of energy that would pass, but then, in a devastating instant, she lost her balance completely and collapsed onto the floor. Gasps and shouts echoed through the set. The director immediately called for the cameras to stop rolling as panic spread among the crew. Assistants rushed forward, but before anyone else could reach her, Chen Lei, her co-star in the drama, was already at her side. Witnesses described the moment as both heartbreaking and unforgettable. Chen Lei, who had been standing just off camera, reacted with instinctive urgency, dropping everything and sprinting toward Ju Yi the second she fell. He knelt down beside her, cradling her hand and calling her name repeatedly in a voice filled with desperation. He was shaking her gently, his face completely pale, one crew member recounted. You could see his lips trembling. He just kept saying, "Yi Yi, please, please open your eyes, don't do this to me." The sight of the usually composed actor in tears shocked everyone present. Known for his professionalism and calm demeanor, Chen Lei is not someone easily rattled. Yet here, in front of dozens of witnesses, his raw emotions spilled out. He broke down, his tears streaming uncontrollably as the minutes dragged on and medical help was called to the scene. Crew members attempted to comfort him, urging him to step back so paramedics could work, but he refused to leave Ju Yi's side. He clutched her hand tightly, his body trembling as he wept openly. "I've never seen him like that," another insider said. "It wasn't acting. It was real fear. It was like he thought he was losing the most important person in his life right there in front of him." As paramedics arrived and began emergency treatment, Chen Lei's breakdown continued. Staff reported that he begged them frantically to save her, his voice cracking as he repeated, "Don't let anything happen to her, please, just save her." Even as medical professionals worked around him, he lingered at her side, his tears refusing to stop. Within minutes, Ju Yi was stabilized enough to be transported to the hospital, but those minutes felt like an eternity. The set, once filled with the buzz of filming, had become a scene of shock and devastation. Crew members were seen comforting each other, some with tears in their eyes, while others stood frozen in disbelief. "It didn't feel real," one assistant admitted. One moment she was acting with all her strength, the next moment she was on the ground. "We were terrified." Dispatch has since confirmed through medical sources that Ju Yi's collapse was caused by severe fatigue and dehydration, the result of weeks of non-stop work and little rest. Doctors have reassured fans that her condition, while serious, is not life-threatening, though they emphasized that she requires immediate and complete rest to recover. But while medical explanations have provided some clarity, what has truly captured the attention of fans worldwide is Chen Lei's emotional response. Within hours of the incident, blurry photos and short clips leaked from the set began circulating online, showing Chen Lei crouched beside Ju Yi, his face wet with tears, gripping her hand desperately. These images spread like wildfire across social media, triggering a storm of reactions. Hashtags such as #JuYiCollapse, #ChenLeiCrying, and #ProtectJuYi began trending within minutes. Fans from across the globe expressed their heartbreak and fear, flooding comment sections with messages of support and love. "This is devastating. She works so hard for us, but at what cost?" one fan wrote. "My heart broke when I saw Chen Lei crying like that. You can see how much he cares for her," another posted. "Please, let her rest. She's human, not a machine. We can wait for her projects, but we can't lose her," read another emotional comment. Some fans even admitted they were moved to tears themselves after seeing Chen Lei's breakdown. "I never thought I'd see him cry like that," one longtime supporter confessed. "It wasn't just concern, it was love. You could feel it through the screen." As online discussions spread, the incident quickly transcended fandoms. Even those who were not regular followers of Ju Yi or Chen Lei found themselves drawn into the story, touched by the raw humanity of the moment. News outlets across Asia picked up the story, and soon it had made international headlines, with global audiences expressing their hopes for Ju Yi's recovery. Back on set, however, the atmosphere was one of grief and shock. Filming was immediately suspended, with the director announcing that production would be postponed indefinitely until Ju Yi's health stabilized. Cast and crew members, visibly shaken, were seen leaving the set in silence, many still processing what they had witnessed. "We couldn't focus on anything else," a staff member admitted. "All we could think about was whether she would be okay, and whether Chen Lei could even recover from the shock of what he had just experienced." By the time Ju Yi arrived at the hospital, Chen Lei was still with her. Witnesses described him as pale, disoriented, and barely holding himself together. He was escorted into the building but refused to leave her side, insisting on waiting until doctors gave him updates. This first wave of chaos, heartbreak, and viral reaction is only the beginning of the story. As Dispatch continues to uncover more details, one thing is clear: the day Ju Yi collapsed on set will be remembered not just as a shocking moment in entertainment, but as the day Chen Lei's true feelings were laid bare for the world to see. Ju Yi's collapse, inside the emotional hospital vigil as Chen Lei refuses to leave her side. Following the shocking collapse of actress Ju Yi on set, the scene quickly shifted from chaos at the studio to tense silence inside one of Beijing's top private hospitals. The ambulance had rushed her through traffic with sirens blaring, but eyewitnesses say the most heartbreaking image wasn't inside the ambulance, it was outside the hospital, where Chen Lei, still visibly shaken, followed closely behind, unwilling to let her face the ordeal alone. Hospital staff describe his arrival as frantic and emotional. "He came in almost running, demanding to know where she was being taken," one nurse recalled. "His voice was hoarse from crying. He looked like he hadn't stopped trembling since the incident." Security attempted to calm him, but Chen Lei insisted he would not leave until he knew Ju Yi's condition. For hours, as doctors worked inside the emergency room, Chen Lei paced the hallway endlessly. Witnesses described him moving up and down the corridor, his hands buried in his hair, occasionally sinking into a chair only to stand again moments later. His tear-stained face was the talk of everyone who passed by. "He looked devastated," said a hospital visitor who happened to be there that evening. "He didn't care who was watching. He was crying, whispering her name under his breath. It was clear he wasn't just worried as a colleague. He was breaking apart inside." Several times, Chen Lei was seen trying to speak to doctors as they went in and out of the room, but staff urged him to wait until the examinations were complete. Still, he lingered at the door, pressing his palms together in silent prayer, his lips moving in words no one could hear. "It was the first time I've seen a star so stripped of their usual image," one staff member said. "There was no celebrity aura left. He was just a man terrified of losing someone he loves." By midnight, after hours of tense silence, Ju Yi was transferred from the emergency unit into a private ward. Sources confirm she was placed under close observation, her body stabilized but her consciousness still weak. Chen Lei was finally allowed to enter the room. What happened next has already been described by witnesses as one of the most emotional moments we have ever seen. "He walked in slowly, like he was afraid of disturbing her," said a nurse who was present. "But the moment he saw her lying there, pale and motionless, his knees nearly gave out. He went straight to her bedside, took her hand in both of his, and started crying again." Chen Lei reportedly whispered to her continuously, even though she remained unconscious at the time. Phrases like, "I'm here, please don't leave me, and you promised me you'd be strong" were overheard. One witness admitted they had to step out of the room because the sight was too heartbreaking. Hours stretched into the early morning, but Chen Lei never left her side. Staff encouraged him to rest, offering him food and water, but he refused, shaking his head each time. "He wouldn't even sit properly," said a hospital employee. "He just sat hunched by her bed, holding her hand, whispering her name again and again." It was as if he thought she could hear him, and that if he stopped, she might slip away. Outside the hospital, word of Ju Yi's condition had already spread like wildfire. Hundreds of fans gathered at the gates overnight, holding candles, posters, and handwritten notes. Hashtags such as #PrayForJuyi and #StayStrongYi climbed to the top of social media rankings, generating millions of posts within hours. Some fans live-streamed their vigil outside the hospital, while others recorded emotional video messages begging her to recover. "I came here because I couldn't sit at home," one fan outside the hospital told reporters. "She gives us so much. Now we have to give her strength." Another said, "I never thought I would cry for a celebrity, but seeing Chen Lei cry like that broke me. Please, Ju Yi, come back to us." By sunrise, the vigil outside had grown larger. News vans lined the street, and police were called in to maintain order. Yet despite the chaos outside, the atmosphere inside Ju Yi's ward remained still and heavy. The only sound was the steady beeping of the monitors, the quiet shuffle of nurses, and Chen Lei's broken whispers at her side. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the moment everyone prayed for arrived. At around 7:30 a.m., Ju Yi stirred. Witnesses confirm her eyelids fluttered, her hand shifted slightly in Chen Lei's grasp, and her breathing grew deeper. Chen Lei immediately noticed, his body snapping upright as he leaned closer, tears welling in his eyes once again. She opened her eyes slowly, like she was waking from a deep dream, the nurse recalled. And the first thing she saw was Chen Lei's face hovering over hers, red and swollen from crying. In that instant, witnesses say Chen Lei completely broke down again, this time in relief rather than despair. He sobbed openly, clutching her hand tighter, his forehead resting against her arm. "You're awake," he whispered, his voice shaking. Thank you for coming back." Though weak and barely able to speak, Ju Yi managed to give him a faint smile. With effort, she whispered words that melted every heart in the room. "Don't cry, I'm okay." Those 4 words became the line of the day, spreading like wildfire across the internet. Staff members admitted they could barely hold back tears themselves, describing the scene as something straight out of a drama, but painfully real. "It was beautiful and heartbreaking all at once," one nurse said. She was so weak, yet she still tried to comfort him. Outside, as news leaked that Ju Yi had regained consciousness, the crowd erupted in cheers. Fans hugged each other, cried, and began chanting her name in unison. Online, the hashtags changed instantly from fear to joy, #JuYiAwake, #ThankYouDoctors, and #ChenLeiandJuYi began trending, with millions of users sharing relief and happiness. Messages poured in from across the globe. She opened her eyes. "I can't stop crying." Chen Lei crying tears of relief is the most real love story I've ever seen. This moment will be remembered forever. Please take care of her now. Inside the hospital, however, emotions remained fragile. Doctors cautioned that while Ju Yi was awake, her body was still extremely weak and in need of total rest. They instructed that she should avoid any stress, both physical and emotional. Chen Lei reportedly nodded to every instruction, promising that he would personally make sure she followed them. "He looked like a man who had been given his life back," a doctor commented. But he also looked determined, like he would not let this happen to her again. By the end of the day, Ju Yi was stable, resting quietly with Chen Lei still at her side. Fans outside continued their vigil, refusing to leave until they were assured she was truly out of danger. What began as a tragedy on set had now transformed into a love story witnessed by the entire world. Chen Lei's tears, his sleepless vigil, and the moment Ju Yi opened her eyes to him will remain etched in memory as one of the most emotional turning points in recent entertainment history. As the clock ticked past midnight, the atmosphere inside the hospital only grew heavier. Ju Yi was still being treated, her condition closely monitored by a team of specialists. But while doctors worked tirelessly behind closed doors, it was Chen Lei's state outside those doors that broke the hearts of everyone who witnessed it. Multiple staff members and fans present at the hospital revealed that Chen Lei refused to leave the hallway outside the emergency room, even when advised to rest. He reportedly sat slumped against the cold white walls, his hands trembling as he clutched Ju Yi's scarf that had been hastily brought from the set. Witnesses say his eyes were red from crying, his voice hoarse as he repeatedly asked nurses for updates every few minutes. Please, just tell me she's breathing normally. Please tell me she's okay," one nurse overheard him whispering, his tone filled with desperation. Another insider shared that at one point, Chen Lei broke down completely, covering his face with both hands as tears streamed uncontrollably. He was shaking, the source said. It wasn't just fear, it was love. You could see how much she means to him. Dispatch reporters learned that Chen Lei even argued with hospital security when they tried to escort him out to give space to doctors. "No. I'm not leaving her, not even for a second," he reportedly shouted, his voice cracking in raw emotion. Eventually, the hospital allowed him to remain seated nearby under the condition that he would not disturb the medical staff. Meanwhile, outside the hospital, the scene mirrored the emotional storm unfolding inside. Hundreds of fans gathered, many clutching candles, banners, and posters of Ju Yi. Some were seen crying openly, chanting prayers and singing softly in unison as if their voices could reach her inside the ICU. Online, millions of fans poured out their emotions, with one viral comment reading, "Seeing Chen Lei cry broke me. If this is how he feels, imagine how much pain she must be in. Ju Yi, please fight for us, fight for him." By early morning, the first official agency statements began to appear. Ju Yi's management confirmed that she had suffered a sudden collapse due to severe exhaustion and stress, assuring fans that she was receiving the best possible care. Chen Lei's team, meanwhile, released a short but emotional message. Chen Lei is deeply shaken. He asks everyone to keep Ju Yi in their prayers. These words only intensified the storm online. Within hours, the combined hashtags #StayStrongJuYi and #WeAreWithChenLei had surpassed over 2 billion views on Weibo, proving just how much the world was glued to every detail of this unfolding drama. But while statements and hashtags offered some comfort to the public, the truth inside the hospital was far rawer, far more emotional. Chen Lei remained by the ICU doors, pale, exhausted, yet refusing to close his eyes for even a moment. One crew member described the sight simply: it was as if he believed his presence alone could keep her alive.